Good morning. On behalf of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus, I would like to welcome you to our Sunday service. I'm Amber Scott, your Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she, her, or they, them. Let us begin our time together by remembering the land that holds us. We give thanks that we are finally able to gather physically here in the homeland of the Adena, the Hopewell, the Wyandotte, the Miami, the Seneca, and the Cayuga peoples. Let us take a few moments of silence to honor their connection with this land we know as Central Ohio. This morning, we will continue exploring our monthly theme of awakening. We will explore lessons from the Easter story that we can use every day when we find ourselves in hard places. Please rise as you are willing and able and join us in our opening hymn, Morning Has Come. It is number 1000 in your teal hymnal. The words will also appear on the screen. Brandon will be leading us as we welcome the day we've been given.
Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope he shines on each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace he shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love he shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Nothing like a rousing song to greet the day. It is so good to see you. I'm Reverend Dr. Marion Stewart. It is my pleasure to serve this congregation as your senior minister. And thank you all who wore Easter hats today. Plain or fancy, whatever, thank you for getting into the spirit. And please know that this is a stand-in request for every Easter. Easter, Easter, Easter. So this month of April, that happens to include Easter, also includes our stewardship drive, our annual stewardship drive. We are in week 2. We are not going to make a big deal of stewardship today, but you might notice some extra people hanging out around the sanctuary this morning. Every person who pledges is represented by one of our people cutouts. So if you make a pledge, thank you, Robert. If you make a pledge, you get a cutout people, and I think they're over the hallway by the office going down to Beach Hall. So yeah, thank you all for helping our community thrive, and each Sunday you'll see our chain of people growing and growing. So yay for that. Thank you for your generosity for all that we do. And now for the big stuff. If you are welcome, whether you've been here 1,000 times or if this is your 10th time or first time. Special welcome to all those who might be visiting with us this morning. We welcome you, and we welcome you either in person or virtually. Every Sunday, we have about 75 to 100 families joining us online as well. So we are a big, healthy, thriving congregation in this new arena of multi-platform Sunday service. Go figure. I never thought I'd see this day, but we're doing it. So thank you. Visitors, you are welcome to do the sign-in form. Check the QR code, and you can do that on your phone or at the welcome table out front. That way you can not only let us know you're here, you can sign up for our newsletter so you know what's going on. They all come via email. First UU is a very busy congregation. We're getting back into the swing of things. And I want to remind you of Sukkot Shalom, the Jewish faith community who shares our building. They have invited First UU to a street Seder. The street Seder is all about environmental justice, and it is this Tuesday at noon. You can find out more at the Jam Table and Beach Hall following this service. You can also look online in Friday News. And I just want to welcome you again to this morning's service and to tell you that the church is now mask optional. It is fine if you wear a mask. Actually, that is encouraged. It's also okay if you choose not to. But I do encourage everyone to get vaccinated and go for your 4th booster if you can. Our children are not yet vaccinated, and we need to take care because we are an intergenerational community, and we love each and every one of you, and we want you here safe and well. That's a lot. Let's all take a deep breath as we listen to Nathan play our prelude. Thank you, Nathan. And before we light our chalice, I want to thank Sue and Denise for the lovely flowers this morning, each and every week, and also to, yes. Sue's going, no, not me. But yes, Sue and Denise, but also to remind you that next week is Earth Day, and Earth Day is when we have our annual flower ceremony, so that means bring your flowers next week. And yay, there are flowers blooming. It'll be a lovely day. If you are joining us online, I invite you to get your candle or chalice and bring it close so that you can light our chalice with us. And our chalice lighting words this morning are An Eye for Miracles by Diego Valeri. You who have an eye for miracles, regard the bud now appearing on a bare branch of the fragile young tree. It is a mere dot, a nothing. But already it's a flower, already a fruit, already its own death and resurrection. Our chalice is lit.
Happy Easter! I see many of you are wearing your Easter best, from spring flowers to fancy Easter hats. Now, if you want to know how to get some bunny ears like this, I recommend you eat your vegetables, but especially carrots. After the story today, our children will have the opportunity to join their peers in the classroom wing for crafts and other activities while we prepare for our egg hunt. Our middle and high school youth are invited to come help us hide the Easter eggs as well. After the service ends at around 11:15, then the egg hunt will commence. We will meet on the SYC playground beforehand. All are invited to come watch the fun. Our story today is called After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again, written and illustrated by Dan Santat. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot, high up on the wall. I know it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I loved being close to the birds. Then one day, I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall, which sounds a little grand. It was just an accident, but it changed my life. Fortunately, all the king's men managed to put me back together. Well, most of me. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. After that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. I walked past the wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really missed the birds and being so high above the city, but I could never do it because I knew accidents can happen. I eventually settled for watching the birds from the ground. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. Then one day, an idea flew by. Making planes was harder than I thought. It was easy to get cuts and scratches, but day after day, I kept trying and trying until I got it just right. My plane was perfect, and it flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt that happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being up with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. I almost walked away again, but then I thought about all the time I'd spent working on my plane and all the other things I missed, and I decided I was going to climb that wall. But the higher I got, the more nervous I felt. I didn't want to admit it. I was terrified. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just kept climbing one step at a time until I was no longer afraid. Maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who is famous for falling. Hopefully, you'll remember me as the egg who got back up and learned how to fly. The end. In this story, Humpty Dumpty reminds us that sometimes life truly begins when we decide to get back up again. I invite you to think about your own transformations as we continue to grow into the spring season together. Families who would like to participate in outdoor Sunday school and youth who would like to help us get ready for the egg hunt are now invited to head towards the playground.
Good morning. I'm Sylvia Howe. I'm a retired Unitarian Universalist minister and a member of this congregation. To participate in the caring meditation this morning, or to ask for pastoral or practical support with difficulty in your life, now is the time to fill out the joys and sorrows form. You can find it by scanning the QR code on the screen or by visiting firstuucolumbus.org Sunday. If we receive your joy and sorrow in the next few minutes, we'll read it aloud during the caring meditation. You may also complete the form anytime throughout this week to be shared next Sunday and to receive pastoral and caring support. Sharing our joys and sorrows and supporting one another is the only one way that this is a community. We lift up each other and hold all that is about us in our hearts. Nathan?
Our centering, okay. Thank you, Nathan. I want to thank Sylvia and also Ron, our pastoral listeners for today. Ron will join Sylvia later and help us with our joys and sorrows. Don't forget to do the QR code and log in if you want to, whether you're in person or online. Our centering words this morning are Seasons of the Self by Max Kutz.
We need a celebration that speaks the spring-inspired word about life and death.
About us as we live and die.
Through all the cycling seasons, days, and years.
We need the sense of deity to crack our own hard, brown December husk.
And push life out of inner tombs and outer pain.
Unless we have the seasons of the self and spring can come to us,
the winter will go on and on.
And Easter will remain a myth, and life will never come again, despite the fact of spring. Thank you, choir, and what a gift music is. If you're interested in singing in the choir, I'm sure Brandon would like to talk to you. Chalice Choir practices on Thursday evening, and Spirit of Life Choir rehearses on Tuesday evening with Michaela. So everybody's a singer, right? Come on, join the choir. Our reading for this morning is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16 in the Christian scriptures. It begins this way. On the first day of the week, at early dawn, they came to the tomb, saying,
"Who will roll away the stone from the entrance to the tomb?"
They looked up and saw that the stone had already been rolled back. And on the right, they saw a young man. They were alarmed. But the man said to them,
"Who do you seek the living among the dead?"
So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them, and they said nothing, for they were afraid. Have you ever been afraid that something was too good to be true? Wish upon wish, hope upon hope, cross your fingers and toes and close your eyes really tight, afraid if you open them, the dream that you thought could come true would vanish into thin air. Ever been there? Imagine what Mary Magdalene and the women felt when the tomb where Jesus lay for 3 days was empty. The stone had been rolled back and the body was gone. They didn't even know that resurrection was possible. Then, all of a sudden, Jesus appeared out of nowhere. Scripture says that terror and amazement seized them. Yeah, I'd be right there with them. The Christian faith was born on the other side of this story. But I want to step back into that mystery of the tomb, a vast, empty space where the dead are placed, and large stones are rolled in place to seal the entrance. The dark tomb, marking the transition from life into death. Death and darkness are where a lot of stories end, but not all. It is in that nexus, that tomb space of death, the hard place where all seems lost. That's where the space lies, where the story of Jesus holds hope. To be clear, I don't expect anyone to literally rise up out of the grave, but I do believe in transformation and transcendence. You might think that the Easter story of rising up out of the grave is strange. It is, and it isn't. It had beginnings in what we might recognize today. So let's take a quick look at why Jesus got crucified in the first place. Jesus was executed because of power and politics. Sound familiar? He was tried twice, once by the Jewish high priest of the temple, who enjoyed his supreme influence and long tenure, and finally by the Roman occupiers. A few days earlier, in the days leading up to Passover, Jesus had threatened the status quo by flipping over a money changer's table in the temple. This was a direct action against prevailing injustices. Have you ever wanted to flip over a table at all that's wrong in this world? Yeah. Realizing that Jesus and his teaching had amassed a great following, the leaders felt threatened by the potential of rebellion against them, the high priest, and by extension, the Romans. It didn't help that Jesus was becoming known as the King of the Jews. At the end of the second trial, the Roman judge Pontius Pilate asked the huge crowd that had gathered what to do next. The crowd demanded that another prisoner be set free, and he was, so Jesus was crucified. Jesus was hung on a cross and buried in a tomb. While the specifics of Jesus' story are of a time and place, the larger story transcends. Just as we would do well to study the teachings of Jesus, the rabbi, we also do well by studying the mechanics of what is this about high conflict. Jesus was a master of understanding the moral understory and transforming any situation into one of hope. In the Gospel of John, chapter 7, there is a story about when the scribes and Pharisees brought a woman to Jesus. They tried to trick him. The woman was said to have been caught in the act of adultery. This was a test case for Jesus to see if he agreed with the woman that the woman should be stoned to death. Jesus paused when presented with this situation, and then he knelt down and began writing in the sand using his finger. The accusers grew louder all around him, and then he spoke. The one who is without sin is the one who should cast the first stone. Slowly, the accusers and those gathered began to depart. Jesus then asked the woman if she was condemned, and she said no. Jesus told her he did not condemn her either. Then he tells her to go and sin no more. Jesus transformed this situation into one of hope, of life after the near escape of death for the woman. He had paused and gone deep into the moral fabric of seeing each person fully. I wonder if in the work for justice and lifting up the inherent worth and dignity of every person, Some of us might feel the pressures of power and politics. How many tables of power have we tried to flip? How many accused have we sought fair trials, demanded them? How many stones and guns and madness have we tried to lay down? How many people have we helped by demanding reproductive rights? And in this democracy, how many marginalized voters have we helped to register? Michael Meade, in his Living Myth podcast, The Weight of the World, puts all of this into context. Meade writes, "It is our mutual fate to be alive in a time of great conflict and division, as culture is set against culture, while human culture is also set against nature. As the pressure and weight of worldwide issues grow, it is important to remember the old idea that meaningful and genuine transformation are the secret aims of the underlying tensions of life." Now, we are not Jesus, no way, but some things don't change, and the need for transformation is high on the list. Susan Williams, a wise first UUer, I warned her she'd get a shout out this morning, a wise first UUer who has always challenged me to go deeper into various subjects with lots of thoughts and papers and emails and books and resources to go with that. She's wonderful. She brought a new book to my attention a few weeks ago. I highly recommend it. I've listened to it on Audible and also read most of it in the hard text too. It is called High Conflict, Why We Get Trapped and How We Get Out. Wow. It's by Amanda Ripley. The book highlights a sampling of people who get caught between a rock and a hard place. They may or may not have seen it coming, but they all crashed in what Ripley refers to as the tar pits. In that dark, ugly, hard, and sticky place, these people had their own living experience of the tomb. This could have been the end. They could have died in so many ways. Yet they discovered their own understory of worth and dignity and began the act and arc of transformation. They changed the story of their lives out of the wasteland of high conflict into a much more meaningful life. By high conflict, Ripley argues that there are different types of conflict. We are familiar with the more mundane, regular fare that happens all the time in our regular lives. And we learn over time how to manage these. And everyone can come out the other side somewhat whole, maybe a bruised ego or so, and maybe ideas to do something differently next time, but we all survive it. In high conflict, however, there seems to be no way out. The two sides are entrenched, often straying far from the original argument into a do or die, winner takes all, zero-sum game. And I think some of our political situations, the war in Ukraine, even battles over democracy itself, are examples of these zero-sum conflicts. Many of us have personal experience with this version of high conflict. It's hard, it's dark, and the tar pits are near. I don't know the way out of some of these high conflicts that we are facing, but what I do know is that we can all work on avoiding conflict that add to the pile. We have to recognize that we have choices that can lead to the proverbial tomb or to transformation. In the book's subtitle, Ripley promises ways to deal with high conflict. The best way is to prevent it in the first place. After recognizing the signs, Ripley outlines 5 steps to prevent escalation. Now, I normally don't like to list things in a sermon without showing them because they're really hard to follow, but I want to offer these to you quickly because you might find a nugget in here that could help you. First, investigate the understory. Go up to the balcony and see if you can see what lies underneath. Where is the anxiety and the fear? Second, reduce the binary. Mix it up. Avoid binaries of forced choices. Third, marginalize the fire starters. Anyone know a fire starter? You're laughing. You might know them too. Actually, they're on the news all the time, right? But get some distance from them. Get some distance from the people who just delight in the conflict. Fourth, buy time and space. Be curious and actually try active listening. That's a novel idea. And fifth, I love this one, it's so Unitarian, complicate the narrative. Be suspicious of stories and ask questions, and also be ready to be humble. I love this story that Ripley includes about different approaches to high conflict. The author remembers reading Lord of the Flies in high school. You might remember that a group of schoolboys survive a plane crash only to devolve into violence and cruelty on a remote island. Anybody read that and remember that? How many people think we're in Lord of the Flies land right now? Oh my gosh. Anyway, as Ripley remembers it, she says the story was quite convincing. But then she points out a different story, because in real life, there actually was a group of boys who were shipwrecked on a remote Polynesian island in 1965. Anybody remember reading about that? Some of us maybe real time or in history books. But anyway, in his book, Rutger Bregman described this whole scenario, this whole story in his book, Humankind. And you might want to know what really happened in this true story, not the make-believe where we all devolve into violence and chaos, but what happened with this group of boys in real life. Turns out the story goes like this. The kids hollowed out tree trunks to catch rainwater. They worked in pairs, drawing up a schedule to ensure that chores of gardening, cooking, and guard duty all got taken care of. They started a fire and kept it going for 15 months until they got rescued. For all you type A folks, that's a pretty awesome list, and everybody did it. But Ripley wonders, how did they manage such remarkable cooperation? Whenever they got into conflicts, seems they had a ritual. Each boy would go to the opposite ends of the island, wherever, and calm down. They created time and space. Then, after about 4 hours apart, they came back together and they apologized. They did something else too. Those maroon boys were amazing because what they did next was maybe just as important. They made a guitar out of a piece of driftwood, a coconut shell, and 6 steel wires scavenged out of the ruins of their boat. And they started and ended each day with song and prayer. Wow, 15 months. 15 months. Now, a deserted island is a long way off. It might seem to many of us like it could be its own tar pit. And indeed, in Lord of the Flies, it was. There was plenty of conflict, of opportunity to let conflict go toward violence. But there was also an opportunity to work together for peace. Going back to the woman at the well story, she was in a hard place of high conflict, about to be stoned to death, and probably placed in a tomb of her own. But Jesus opened up space for transformation back into life. On Easter, we remember the dark tomb of what is possible on the other side. We all know conflict, both the ordinary kind and the devastation of high conflict. You might say it is all around us in the world right now. So, what can we do to lower that temperature? Can we take Ripley's advice? Or can we create space by cracking open expectations and being surprised how conflict and life can be transformed? One of the takeaways from the Easter story is that even though the tomb is sealed, it's possible to be resurrected. In the hard, cold, dark tar pits of conflict, it is possible to emerge changed. In her Easter morning blog, Jan Richardson writes, "Early on the first day of the week, John's gospel tells us, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed. I can hardly begin to tell you how much I depend on that beautiful detail. While it is still dark, Easter starts in the shadows. Resurrection begins in the place we cannot see." What blessings might await you if you seek a way out of the darkness of the tar pits, the darkness that might be your own tomb, proverbial tomb? What is in your heart that can be transformed? In closing, I offer you a poem by Jan Richardson from her book, Circle of Grace, the Magdalene's Blessing for Easter Day. You hardly imagine standing there, everything you ever loved suddenly returned to you, looking you in the eye and calling your name. And now you do not know how to abide this hole in the center of your chest, where a door slams shut and swings open at the same time, turning on the hinge of your aching and hopeful heart. I tell you, this is not a banishment from the garden. It is an invitation, a choice, a threshold, a gate. This is your life calling to you from a place you could never have dreamed. But now that you have glimpsed its edge, you cannot imagine choosing any other way. So let the tears come as anointing, as consecration, then let them go. Let this blessing gather itself around you. Let it give you what you need for this journey. You will not remember the words. They do not matter. All you need to remember is how it sounded when you stood in the place of death and heard the living call your name. My friends, blessed be and happy Easter. Thank you, Nathan. We are a beloved community in the making. One of the ways we help ourselves and the world is by sharing of our monetary resources. This sharing of resources as a community means that some of us are just scraping by right now and have already made a great contribution just by being here. Some of us are thriving financially and can challenge ourselves to give more. We are sharing our offering plate in April with Friends of the Lower Olentangy watershed, FLOW for short. Flow was formed in 1997 to keep the Olentangy River, the one right here down the end of the street, and its tributaries clean and safe for all to enjoy through public education, volunteer activities, and coordination with local decision makers. And as you drove in on Weisheimer, you might have seen that big rain garden with those white boxes out front that Ohio State University students are, I don't know, they're doing some kind of research there. But anyway, Flow helped us form that rain garden out front, and it was one of the very first in the city of Columbus. Thank you for supporting Flow and helping to keep our river beautiful and clean and supporting the efforts of this group. There are lots of ways you can donate because we're multi-platform these days. You can donate using tech by scanning the QR code, do text at the number, or go to our website, firstucolumbus.org/donate, or you can do it the old-fashioned way. You can walk or roll into Beach Hall and give it the jam table, or we have magic ushers who are appearing with old-fashioned offering plates that have now returned to in-person services. Oh my gosh, we are getting back to normal, aren't we? Any way you choose to give, or if you need to pass, that's fine, but thank you so much for your generosity.
Thank you, Nathan. Let's see. Sharon and Ron are our pastoral listeners this morning. To begin our time of community caring, I offer adapted words from Timothy Haley. Amid all the noise in our lives, we take this moment to sit in silence, to give thanks for another day, to give thanks for all those in our lives, those who have brought us warmth and love, to give thanks for the gift of life. We know we are on a pilgrimage here, but a brief moment in time. Let us open ourselves here, now, to the process of becoming more whole, of living more fully, of giving and forgiving more freely, of understanding more completely this meaning of our lives here on this earth. Before we read our caring cards this morning and share our joys and sorrows, I invite you to join me in lifting up all those at war and conflict. May they find peace. We lift up those who suffer from violence, including the victims of the New York subway shooting. The family of Patrick Leola, who was shot by Grand Rapids police. And victims of recent shootings across the nation. I invite Ron to share the caring cards for this week.
Deb McGuire had surgery to receive a kidney transplant on April 8th. She's recovering well. Her donor, Michael's sister Patty, is also doing well. Deb is grateful to the folks who stepped forward to be evaluated as donors, including 3 from our congregation. Heidi Drake is home, recovering from shoulder replacement. She's hoping for less painful days ahead. Melissa Karas is in the hospital and struggling with getting better. No calls or visitors until she's really feeling up to it. But you can send messages to Tom Roberts, her husband, and he will hand deliver them. Nina Lewis is now at home after a stroke and several hospitalizations. Cards are appreciated, but no calls or visits. Barb Fisher had shoulder surgery last week and reports that she is doing well. We send love and caring thoughts to these families as well. Fujio Hayashi's father passed away at the age of 93 in Japan on April 13th. He came to the US in 1964 to work on NASA's lunar rocket program. He raised 2 children here and worked in the aerospace industry until his retirement, when he moved back to Japan. Will Spernoga, the son of Meg and Bob Spernoga, died at their home on Monday evening, April 11. Will was 27. He was a talented and smart young man with a passion for music and sports in his school days. He had a 4-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter, as well as a 7-year-old stepson, and he was dedicated to their care. Plans for service have not been made yet. Michaela Brown shared that she's thankful to be here in person singing with her wonderful choir. I love my people, she says. Adam Makarski was cast in the lead role as Robin Hood in the upcoming stage production, The Somewhat True Tale of Robin Hood, being produced by the Rise Up Arts Alliance in Lancaster, Ohio. Congratulations to Adam. His parents, Andy and Jim, are so very proud of him. Congratulations to Carolyn Makarski, who was awarded the Franklin County 4-H Scholarship to Kelly's Island Sea Camp, where she will live and learn on a marine research vessel for a week this summer. We encourage all of you to visit the Caring Table in Beach Hall after the service to sign the caring cards. Whether or not you know these people, this is a long-time tradition of signing cards in person, and it is an important outreach to members and friends. And if there are no cards to sign, you can stop by and say hello to the volunteers. And now, what you have sent this morning.
Stuart S. sends greetings and the information that Linda, our pastoral care minister, is improving bit by bit. She is starting to walk short distances without the help of her walker and is experiencing less pain. Ashley and Hayes report that they're finally accepted for a new apartment. We give thanks for that. Anjali D. is sending good vibes and prayers to one of my special education students who has been in the hospital for the past week. And Laura H. My dad finally had his post-surgical drain removed, and he's feeling better. May we hold these joys and sorrows and those yet unspoken gently in our hearts.
As I ring our temple bell, I invite you into a moment of silence. Use this time to reflect, imagine, pray, or simply breathe in and out and find your place, your beloved place in this beloved community. I will ring the bell a second time as we resume our service.
Our closing words are written by Boris Novak, translated by Mia Dinchinjana. Between two words, choose the quieter one.
Between word and silence, choose listening.
Between two books, choose the dustier one.
Between the earth and sky, choose a bird.
Between two animals, choose the one who needs you more.
Between two children, choose both.
Between the lesser and bigger evil, choose neither.
Between hope and despair, choose hope. It will be harder to bear. And speaking of choosing, I invite you now into an Easter tradition that is very Unitarian in spirit. We will sing together and choose the words. Here's how it works. You may choose to sing either hymn number 61, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again, or number 268, Jesus Christ is Risen Today. They're both in your gray hymnal. If you can't decide, you can go back and forth. All the words will be on the screen. And this might sound like chaos in the making, which I think we're pretty good at, but both songs have the same tune, okay? And the same chorus. Regardless of the words you choose, we will all come together on the Alleluias. Even as we are individuals in person and in theology, together we are beloved community. Alleluia, let us sing. Happy Easter Unitarian style. Here we go. If you are participating online, I invite you to grab your chalice or candle, bring it near so we extinguish our chalice together. For everyone here, if you would like, you may have a seat so that we can extinguish our chalice by saying our words together. These are the words of our vision statements, so say them loud and proud and take them to heart. Before we do that, though, I want to remind you that after our service has concluded, we want to once again have coffee hour in Beach Hall. Thank you for all those who helped make that possible. And on Zoom, we have virtual coffee hour. I invite those who want to go to Zoom coffee hour to check the link in this morning's email because the link changes every week so we don't get Zoom bombed Been there, done that, not doing that again. Thanks to the Board of Trustees for hosting this morning's coffee hour. Online and in person, mask or not, it is so good to be together. I now invite you to join in speaking our vision statement as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love. Our chalice is extinguished. Please remain seated as our choir sings our benediction, and then as Nathan plays the postlude. We look forward to seeing you in coffee hour right after this service. And don't forget, the kids have an Easter egg hunt, and you're invited to help or watch or whatever you want to do. Thank you, choir. Let us sing.